Hello, my name is Albelis Reyes, and today we will talk about an overview of countries where English is the primary language. First of all, we need to focus about their histories and cultural diversity. First of all, we need to know that English is spoken as the primary or official language in several places around the world. Our focus will not only be linguistic but also historical and cultural. We need to understand how English became dominant in these nations, how local and global influences shape its evolution, and how each country expresses its unique identity through the language. Let's begin by acknowledging that English as a global language is the product of centuries of political expansion, colonization, trade, and cultural exchanges. Its journey came from a small island in northern Europe to becoming the most widely studied and spoken second language in the world. This is remarkable and complex, because in many countries, English is not only a medium of communication, but a reflection of their historical pathways, identity, and struggles. First of all, we need to start by talking about the United Kingdom, which I think is the origin of the English language. The English language is originated in what is now modern-day England, emerging from the fusion of several Germanic dialects spoken by the Anglo-Saxons, who migrated from what is now Germany and Denmark during the 5th century. Over time, English absorbed vocabulary and syntax from Latin, Old Norse, and Norman French, making it one of the most lexically diverse languages in the world. The United Kingdom comprises 4 nations, which are England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, while English is spoken throughout each region, retaining distinct cultural and linguistic features. For instance, Welsh is still actively spoken and protected in Wales. Scottish Gaelic are present in Scotland, and Irish continues to be taught and revived in Northern Ireland. In this way, in a cultural point of view, the UK is a college of traditions. From the literature of Shakespeare, the political influence of Magna Carta to the Industrial Revolution and the expansion of the British Empire, the UK's impact on global history is big. This empire, as we will see, played a pivotal role in spreading English across continents. Okay. Secondly, we need to talk about the United States, which is an English pot of cultures, basically. And although the United States of America has no official language at the federal level, English is the dominant language used in government, education, business, and media, brought over by British colonists in the 17th century. English in the United States evolved quickly, influenced by immigration and the sheer geographic and demographic scale of the country. American English is developed by its own spelling, pronunciation, idioms, and grammar, which is standardized over time through dictionaries, mass education, and national media. However, the most fascinating aspect or thing about English in the USA is how it functions within a multicultural society. The USA is home to millions of people whose first language includes English, Chinese, Vietnamese, and many others. And this has led to the creation of regional dialects called switching and new forms of expressions that enrich the language. So, in a cultural way, the USA reflects a dynamic blend of Native American heritage and African American traditions, Latin American influence, and global immigrant contributions. Next, we have Canada. Canada is known as a bilingual nation with deep roots. Canada is officially bilingual, with both English and French holding equal status under federal law. And however, English is the majority language in most provinces, while French is dominant in Quebec. The Canadian variation of English maintains many British elements in spelling and vocabulary, while also adopting American influences due to the geographic proximity. Canadian cultural identity is defined by its commitment to multiculturalism, indigenous reconciliation, and regional diversity. Over 1.6 million of people identify as indigenous, and there are more than 70 distinct indigenous languages across this country. English in Canada, therefore, is not a single monolithic identity, but is just part of a larger framework of cultural coexistence and policy-driven inclusion. Australia and New Zealand. This is English in the South Pacific. In Australia, English was introduced with the arrival of the First Fleet in 1788, marking the beginning of British colonization. In this case, Australian English is known for its distinctive accent, vocabulary, and informal tone. Yet, beneath the superfice lies a complex story of indigenous displacement, resilience, and cultural revival. Over 250 Aboriginal languages once flourished across the continent, and today, efforts to preserve and revive them are ongoing. In New Zealand presents a similar story, where English is the dominant language, but the Te Reo Maori, the language of the Maori people, holds official status and is undergoing revitalization. New Zealand English features unique pronunciation and vocabulary. Unlike Australia, the nation is marked by its effort to recognize and protect its indigenous heritage. Both countries are today shaped by immigration, with large communities from Asia, the Pacific Islands, and Europe. Their multiculturalism contributes to the evolution of English and to a diverse social landscape. Now, if we place ourselves in the Caribbean countries, English is the physical language in several countries, including Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua and Barbuda, Saint Lucia, and Grenada. These nations were once British colonies, and while standard English is used in education and government, the everyday language of the people is often a combination of several languages. In this case, the language system blends English with African, indigenous, and some European elements. Caribbean English is rich, expansive, and deeply tied to oral tradition, music, and identity. From reggae and calypso to the poetry and carnival, language in the Caribbean is a tool of resistance, celebration, and creativity, which these nations exemplify how English can be indigenized and transformed, serving as both a colonial legacy and a foundation for cultural pride. Now, when talking about Africa, we have that this is a nation that is actually multilingual, but uses English as a bridge of a connection between all of them. In Sub-Saharan Africa, English functions as an official language in many countries, including Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and others. In most cases, English was introduced through British colonization and retained after independence due to its practical role in government, education, and international diplomacy. However, in these countries, English is often one of several nations' languages. For example, Nigeria has over 500 living languages, yet English serves as an unifying medium. And in the case of South Africa, we have that it has 11 official languages, including Zulu, Xhosa, and Afrikaans, with English functioning as the main language of business and higher education. So in African English, but try to mix this English and shape it by local expressions, cultural realities, and multilingual environments. The result of all of this is a diverse and innovative use of English that reflects both global connections and deeply local experiences. Now we have Asia, which works as an strategic role of English. Though it's not primarily in a native sense, India, Pakistan, and the Philippines are major countries where English plays an official and highly influential role. In India, English was introduced under British rule and has remained as associate official language used in administration, judiciary, higher education, and media. It coexists with over 20 officially recognized languages and hundreds of regional dialects. English in India is often seen as a bridge language, facilitating communication in a linguistic diverse nation. Now, in Pakistan, English serves a similar purpose in law, business, and education. And the Philippines was once a U.S. colony, but also uses English as an official language alongside Filipino. Filipino English has developed its own features in pronunciation and vocabulary, and is deeply embedded in daily life, from schools and newspapers to government proceedings. These countries demonstrate how English can be integrated into multilingual societies as a tool for modernization, international communication, and national development. In conclusion, English today is more than just a language. It's a living, evolving, and global phenomenon that it has been shaped by empires and revolutions, migration and media, innovation and resistance. Each country where English is spoken has adopted in its own way, adapting it to fit in local contexts, values, and cultures. From the literary traditions of the United Kingdom to the multicultural vibrancy of the United States and Canada. From the post-colonial expressions in Africa and the Caribbean to the formal strategic use of English in Asia. From the indigenous language revival efforts in Australia and New Zealand to the dynamic linguistic creativity in the streets of Lagos, Kingston, and Manila. English is no longer the property of one nation. It belongs to everyone who speaks it in classrooms, homes, governments, music, and art. And each of them has its own voice and adds richness to this language. So thank you for your attention.